It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce our speaker this morning, Olivier Melnick, who is president of Shalom in Messiah Ministries. It has been 4 years since he has visited us, and I must now say that the dereliction is on our account, and we will seek to remedy it from this point forward. So I don't want to take any time from him because I am looking forward to his message. You know, we love the Lord Jesus Christ, and we also love his people. We would never want to be associated with any harm that came to them. Thank you, Olivier.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, it's good to be back.
No, you're not.
Sorry? Or not? Okay, let me start again. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. It's very good to be back. Yesterday we had we got together here and we talked about Messiah and the Passover. It was a fun time. And today I want to continue. I want to speak about a topic that is important. You know, every time I come to visit you, I try to bring you an update on what's going on with the Jewish people and with Israel, and things are not getting any better. And so let me tell you a little bit about last time I came, about 4 years ago, you're right, I was serving as the regional director for Chosen People Ministries, a wonderful mission organization that I had been with, a part of for 26 years. And then in the last year, the Lord has starting to pull me away from my responsibilities to be able to do more of what I'm doing now, which I'll explain in a second. And I was feeling like I was not be able to fulfill my duty as a regional director for Chosen People Ministries, and I had to make a choice. And I really didn't want to make a choice at age 64. Because my wife was telling me, are we supposed to kind of slow down a little bit now? And so I was comforted by the fact that Moses didn't get started until he was 80. So I'm 16 years ahead of Moses, but I'm no Moses, okay? But that's a little bit of a comfort. What happened is for the last 23 years, I have been studying, teaching, writing, doing conferences on the topic of anti-Semitism, helping church members, Christians, understand what it's all about, the history of it. We'll do a little bit of that this morning. The history of it and explaining how to fight it, how to speak against it. Do I have to change anything here or no? Okay, I want to make sure that. And how to speak against it. And not until recently did I realize that we needed to kick it up a notch. And now my call that the Lord has given me is to help mobilize Christians to actually do something beyond prayer and speaking up, which we need to continue to do. And this is what, and talking about mobilizing, we'll talk about that later in the message. I was pulled towards that more and more, and then that's why I had to make a decision. So I made a decision and started the new ministry. It's not even 3 months. We'll be 3 months on the 1st of what are we, April? Is it going fast or what? Whew. So 1st of May will be 3 months. And so keep us in your prayers. It's a Support Raise ministry. I left, I was a missionary on Support Raise with Chosen People for 26 years. People supported us there, and some have followed us. Some have new people have come aboard. We need more people. The website is shalominmessiah.com, and I've got cards on the table along with some books that I brought as well if you're interested on the topic that I'm going to speak on. And so stay connected with us. We appreciate that. And So that's what I wanted to tell you about the ministry, and let me get into the message right away. And the message is based on the events of October 7th. And since October 7th, so much more has happened that I could actually and I will update you a little bit through the message and through the next hour with John Haller, if he lets me talk. I had to throw that in. So the message today is the believer's response after October 7, 2023. The world changed on October 7th, 2023. If you think it's just Israel, don't be fooled. The whole world changed. And really, what's happening with the Jewish people in Israel is now completely different. It's not going to slow down. It's only going to get worse. This is why time for Christians to mobilize and see what they can do to help has arrived. And so I always look at history and how we don't want history to repeat itself. And so the first question I have, and this is really not aimed at you because I know your body here, I know your congregation, but this is a general question for Christianity as Jewish people look at Christians. And the question is, have Christians missed the mark in making the Jewish people jealous? Romans 11:11. I say then, they did not stumble so as to fall, did they? May it never be, but by their transgression salvation has come to the Gentiles to make them jealous. Gentiles have received salvation as part of God's plan, and part of that plan is that they would take it and turn around and make the original messengers, the Jewish people, jealous. And I don't think Christian Gentiles have done a very good job at that. And I'm speaking generally, I'm speaking globally, again, not necessarily pointing the finger at you people here in particular. But when Christians deal with Jewish people, they don't there's a lot of unknown. They don't know the culture. They don't know the customs. They don't know the religious aspect. And unfortunately, what's happened over the last 2,000 years, which is coming to its apex right now, is a lot of things that the church has done. Sometimes it's the church, sometimes it's people calling themselves Christians, sometimes it's Christians that are misinformed. But the reality to my people is that my people see Christians as a threat. They see Christians as anti-Semitic. We need to show my people that they are still a dying breed, mind you. There are still Christians who are not Jew haters. It's a dying breed. Even in the church, people are changing their mind now, which is crazy. But this is what this is you, even though you don't believe in that, this is you as a Christian, this is what you bring to the conversation when you come to a Jewish person that you know, Jewish family members, Jewish co-workers, schoolmate. You bring the Christian baggage. It's a baggage that belongs to your heritage as a Christian. You have nothing to do with it. You have nothing to do with the Crusades, the Inquisition, the pogroms, Martin Luther, what he said about the Jews, Holocaust, the Black Plagues, the forced conversions, the blood libels, the host desecration, the greedy Jew, the ghettos, the expulsion. You have nothing to do with any of that. Yet, by proxy, because you are a Christian, Jewish people look at you as responsible for some, if not all of this. So you cannot speak with a Jewish person without at least the knowledge of that suitcase that you carry in, that you bring down in the conversation, and they know more about what's in that suitcase than most people do. So that's what you need to be aware of. I'm going to talk about today redeeming the past. We're going to look at the past. World War II and the Holocaust, and how people handle the Jewish people. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that because I just want to set the stage. But I just want to talk about redeeming the past and looking at the present, and hopefully we can change the future a little bit. So there's a passage that always works for me. It's in Luke 10:30 through 33. It's the passage that all of us know as the Good Samaritan. And you see what Yeshua replied and said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among robbers, and they stripped him and beat him and went away, leaving him half dead. And by chance a priest was going down on that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side." And a priest was another Jew. Likewise a Levite, again another Jew, also when he came to the place and he saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, back in the days, not really a friend of the Jews, they were enemies, who was on a journey, came upon him, and when he saw him, he felt compassion. And I'm always encouraged by this. It doesn't matter your connection to people, if you're related, if you're not related. We as believers, we are called to show compassion. And I believe that our compassion for the Jewish people now needs to be materialized, needs to be expressed with humanitarian help. And let me say this about that. A lot of people, do a lot of good for Israel and the Jewish people. They do humanitarian help. And I know organizations that I would not recommend. If you ask me in private, I'll tell you who they are. That you can send money to that sound like they're Christians and Jews working together. I'll leave that alone, but you might know what I'm talking about. And they do great humanitarian work. And humanitarian work is needed. And that's kind of what I want to include in this new ministry that I'm starting. But only humanitarian work is the same as sending somebody to hell on a full stomach. Think about that. You cannot do humanitarian work without the gospel. You got to do it because of the gospel and with the gospel. Otherwise, it's not. It's good. You're going to feed somebody. You're going to, give them lodging. Give them medication or dental work, whatever you do, or even bring them to Israel. But without the gospel, it's just temporary and it's pointless, because again, it's sending somebody to eternal damnation on a full stomach, and that I will not do. And I know you don't want to do. So I want to show you a brief testimony of Holocaust survivors, and there are not that many anymore. Okay, I had the privilege of doing a service for the day of the Holocaust Memorial, Yom HaShoah, last year, and I shared the platform of the 101-year-old Holocaust survivor who told a story, and then it's a good thing that I spoke before him, because if I had to speak after him, I would have been speechless. I couldn't add anything to his story. But here's another man. He's probably in his mid to late 90s, and he's talking about the difference between because I'm going to talk about bystanders, between being a bystander and being an upstander. Not staying on the side and letting things happen, looking the other way, like a lot of what happened during the war, the Second World War, or being an upstander and making a difference. So listen to what he has to say. Or not. Do we not have sound? Okay, so I'm going to start again. The beauty of technology.
In short, if my family wouldn't have had upsenders during the Holocaust, upsenders who were not Jewish, they were Polish, they were Christians, they were Germans, they were even Nazis, but they became upsenders, and if we wouldn't have had them in our lives, I would not be standing here. I would be dead. That's what upsenders do. They create. Not knowingly, but they create lives. They don't destroy. Don't just walk away if you see somebody being bullied. No. Be an upstander. Be a person who stands up and speaks out. Speak up and say something which is the right thing to do, the right thing to say. So whatever you do in your life, starting today, don't be a bystander. In short.
So, who were the bystanders? They were not the rescuers, they were not the victims, they were not the direct perpetrators. A bystander, and that's what you need to understand, a bystander who does nothing only facilitates the work of a perpetrator. When you look at Genesis 12:3, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses him. God gives Abraham, that's what Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum calls the God's foreign policy when it comes to Israel. So I steal that from him, but I'm giving him credit anyway. Did you notice that there's only two choices? A lot of people like to sit on the fence when it comes to the Jewish people. Well, I don't understand the Jewish people. I don't understand Judaism. I don't read Hebrew. I won't get involved. You either bless or you curse. Those are the two options that God has given us in Genesis 12:3. If you don't do one, you do the other by default. So we have no other choice as Christians. I know you understand that. But we're becoming a dying breed. We have no other choice but to bless the Jewish people. Does that mean we agree with everything Israel government does? No. Of course not, and we'll leave that for the next hour. But we cannot be bystanders. I want to show you a couple of pictures here. This is Maurice Weinzweig, and this is Evelyn and Bert Weinzweig. Maurice, summer of 1942 in Paris, and this is a husband and wife, and their daughter Evelyn. You see that Bert and Evelyn are wearing the yellow patch that says Juif on it. I mean, it's black and white, but I promise you it's the yellow patch. And says Jew on it, and that's Maurice. Now the next photo is just for illustration. Those are real photos, but of people that I will tell you more about them later. But the next photo is just for illustration. But this is what happened in their life. In the summer of 1942, Gestapo officers came to get Maurice at his home. Maurice complied, promising to his family that he would be back soon. He disappeared in the smokestacks of Auschwitz, never returned. Okay, I think he died within 1 or 2 weeks. So that was the story of Maurice. Now, the family found out because in the 1980s, this book was published, Le Mémorial de la déportation des Juifs de France, the memorial of the deportation of the Jews of France. That's what it said in French. And in that book, there was a very, very thorough detailed list of all the people, and right there is Maurice Weinzweig, born in 4/12/98 in Olika, Russia, and that is how the family in 1980, so 40 some years after, had the confirmation that Maurice died in Auschwitz. But it's interesting because in the story of Maurice, there were a lot of bystanders in the building where he was taken by the Gestapo, and they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. Now, there are many reasons why they would do nothing. Fear or feeling powerless. What can one person do? I'm just one person. Or wanting to protect their family, or maybe greed sometimes. If I don't do anything, the police or the authorities will give me food ration tickets and I can survive another week. Or hatred of Jews. That existed already. It's been anti-Semitism for years. So, or combination of any or all of those. They remain bystanders. Maurice was taken. Maurice was just one of the 6 million. I don't know if you saw, this is another quick little clip here. I don't know if I usually don't, and I certainly did not this year, but I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I'm not a big sports fan, but this, I believe, is an ad that was played at the Super Bowl, and it's very, very, very powerful, very, very well done. If I push start, of course.
Let's go, Mom. We're gonna be late. Hi, Mr. Tony. Mom, what's that?
Nothing. Just get in the car. Let's go.
Who did that?
Come on. Right now. In. Get in. Right now. Let's go.
Did you paint it or something?
Move it. Seatbelt on. Right now. Put your seatbelt on.
Hi, Mr. Tony.
So
Let's go, Mom. We're
that's where we are right now. This ad is not fiction; it's reality. Recently, I didn't look at the clock. What time am I supposed to be done? You're gonna have to listen faster. Recently, there was in France. There was overnight. Some people came in a Jewish area of Paris and of I think it's the northeast suburb. Don't quote me on where the suburb is, but it's Paris for sure and some suburb. And they stenciled blue stars of David on the front of buildings. And that basically is, and I might be getting ahead of myself. It might be later in the message, but I have so many different messages. Sometimes I forget if I repeat myself. But and they stenciled those to identify where the Jews live. This is 2024. I think it happened in 2023, after October 7th. But this is very reminiscent of Kristallnacht, what happened in Germany in the November of 1938, when the enemies, identified the stores and the businesses and the homes of the Jewish people by painting big white stars and saying Yud on them, and of course burning so many synagogues. That was the beginning of the Holocaust. Kristallnacht was the official, historically speaking, the official, not spark really, but the official date that scholars recognize was the beginning of the final solution. November 9th, the night of November 9th, 1938, the night of broken glass. So those things are happening again, okay? And I have my newest book, actually my next book is coming out next week, but my newest book, which came out last March, is called The Normalization of Anti-Semitism, when the oldest hatred becomes the new normal. In it, I identify 10 steps or 10 criteria for the complete normalization of anti-Semitism. And what I mean by normalization is like, people will go like, yeah, it is what it is. It's just live with it. It's part of where we are, who we are, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. It's just a normalization. It's normal. It's expected. Nobody cares. And I say in that book, which was published in March of 23, 9 of the 10 steps are in place, and I document all of them, and you're going to want to get a copy of it. It's very, very scary. And I said the 10th step has yet to come. And the 10th step in my book, I call it Mass Murder of Jews. And that was published in March of 2023. I need to update that book because all 10 steps have been fulfilled now. We have seen mass murder of Jews on October 7th. Hamas-Israel war was the heaviest Jewish death toll since the Holocaust. 1,200 people murdered, maimed, raped, beheaded, burnt alive. You know what's interesting? It's not interesting, it's disgusting. Is the fact that you don't hear anything about October 7th anymore. All you hear about is what's happening in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis, the killing of Palestinians. I just heard, I was going to keep it for the next hour, but I can't help myself. The enemy is trying to take my voice away. It's not going to work. I just heard this morning a clip of Ilan Omar. She's part of the squad. I'm sure you know who she is. And she's walking on the campus of Columbia University, looking at the tents and the people protesting, the pro-Hamas people. And her daughter is actually a student there, and she's being interviewed about the anti-Semitism against the Jewish students. And she is basically in a sugar-coated statement that sounds like she has nothing against the Jewish people. She is basically accusing the Jewish people of blood libel, of killing Palestinians. She said, it is almost verbatim. It is not acceptable that Jewish students would suffer from anti-Semitism, and then go like, okay, I can live with that. And then she adds, regardless if they're pro-genocide or against genocide. And of course, she's not talking about the genocide of October 7th. I promise you that. She's saying the genocide that's taking place in Gaza, which is, of course, not a genocide, but that's what she's... So she's saying something that sounds kind of good, and people are going to take the first part of the quote and say, yeah, she's pro-Jewish, pro-Israel. But then she said we shouldn't be doing this to the poor Jewish students. It doesn't matter regardless of if they're really interested in killing Palestinians or not. So that was a really weird quote. Anyway, it's on X, Twitter. So I want to show you some of the hatred that the Hamas pogrom unleashed on a global scale. A pogrom is, in case you don't know, a pogrom is an organized riot. The pogroms of the late 1800s in Russia and in Eastern Europe, the story of Fiddler on the Roof. Pogroms were the organized riot that the police actually was even behind that at the time, and these are the pogroms, the time where my great-grandmother Rachel Shimkovitz, say that 3 times, left Russia with her family to come to Western Europe, and they settled in Paris, and this is how our family grew up in France. So look at those cartoons. I want you to notice something. Every single cartoon depicts Israel as the offender, the occupier, the killer, the human right violator, but every single thing that Israel is painted at is actually exactly what Hamas is doing. Here's a wolf going after the poor little Palestinian woman hiding her child, and I want to make sure you notice the wolf has, of course, Stars of David representing Israel, but who's controlling the wolf? The U.S. You see that little sleeve here? It's subtle, but it's there. The shape of the glass that Netanyahu is drinking from is the Gaza Strip. In case not everybody will know that. So this is Netanyahu, drinking the blood of Palestinian victims, and the vast majority of those cartoons are from Arab countries. Here's a good one. Israel is controlling the press. Believe me, if Israel was controlling the press, we'd get a different story. Okay, but that's what they want the world to believe. And the kids on campus right now in America, they believe that. Here is evil, a mask of humanity, but evil is behind it, and of course it's Jewish evil. I'm sure you all knew that Jews have horns. Actually, this goes back to a statue by by Michelangelo years ago, but we don't want to go there. I don't have time. Here is Netanyahu with a swastika putting Palestinians in ovens that look like Auschwitz. And of course, Israel is silencing the world. That's what we get here with a little Star of David. And this one doesn't need a caption, and here this one doesn't need a caption either. And of course you can't do any of that without showing the poor Palestinian displaced prisoners in camps that are just like the camps of the Holocaust. And there's so many more, and so much more has happened since then. But so this was looking at the present. Now I want to do, the next thing I want to do. I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to look at what we can do to act in the present, acting in the present. And I think there's three things we can do. Number one, prayer. Prayer is very important. You know that. Prayer for peace. Peace, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as the absence of war, but I prefer to look at peace as the ultimate peace, the peace that Yeshua, the Messianic King, will bring in the world from Jerusalem when he returns, when he sets up his kingdom. And so prayer for peace is good. A lot of people pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Well, praying for the peace of Jerusalem, when you think about it, is really praying for the return of Yeshua. Because peace will not exist in the Middle East or in the world for that matter until Yeshua returns. So praying for the peace of Jerusalem is a good thing. But friends, it's not enough anymore. That's where we need to start getting busy. Praying for the peace of Jerusalem is foundational. But it's not, you cannot live just on a slab of concrete. You have to build the rest of the house. The foundation is prayer. Always is. In everything we do. The ministry that we started 3 months ago, we prayed for a long time. My wife and I disagreed for a long time, and we prayed more. And we prayed more until she saw that I was right. And, no, I'm just this is recorded online, so this is for posterity now. She's going to, okay, I better backpedal. I love you, honey. We're both right. So, but prayer is very important. Prayer is very important, but it's just the foundation. Praying for Messianic peace. Isaiah 2:4, he shall judge between the nations and shall decide disputes for many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Next is speaking up. This, I have been a proponent, an encourager and an educator to Christians to do that. This is what's happening. This is why it's not true. Let me show you the truth. Let me compare what's being pushed with truth and biblical truth. And now it is our job to speak up. Write a letter, send an email, make a phone call. You can still do that. Never stop doing that. Okay? Isaiah 62:1, for Zion's sake I will not keep silent, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not keep quiet, until her righteousness goes forth like brightness, and her salvation like a torch that is burning. And Isaiah 62:6, which has become one of my newest life verse. On your walls, O Jerusalem, I have appointed watchmen. All day and all night they will never keep silent. You who remind the Lord, take no rest for yourselves. I see myself as a watchman for my people. I speak up and I see what's happening, and I try to tell people ahead of time, this is what's coming. I wrote my first book on anti-Semitism. It came out it was the result of 7 years of research that started in 2000, and it came out in 2007. So 17 years ago, in my first book, I was telling people it's going to get really bad for the Jews. I saw the handwriting on the wall. I'm not saying I'm a modern day prophet. I'm a watchman. And I'm telling you, when I said 17 years ago, it's going to get really bad, I was talking about where we are right now, but people were looking at me going like, maybe you should start wearing a tinfoil yarmulke, if you catch my drift. Because they were going like, Olivier, you're pushing a little too much. I don't think I was. I hate the fact that that I can look at people and say, remember 17 years ago I told you so? I wish I was wrong. I was not. We need to speak up when we see what's happening against the Jewish people. And the third one, which is now bringing us to why I started Shalom and Messiah, is reach out. And that's the scripture that we read this morning. Let me read it again, and then I'll give you some context. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him. It's Yeshua speaking to a group of people, apparently. Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? And when did we see you a stranger and invite you in, and naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? The king will answer and say to them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of them, these brothers of mine, speaking of the Jewish people according to the flesh, even the least of them, you did it to me. This is going to take place, I believe, at the end of the time of Jacob's trouble, at the end of the 7-year tribulation, when some Gentiles would have gone through the tribulation and become believers. Now, okay, full disclosure, and I hope you don't walk out on me, I hold to a pre-trib, premillennial position, so I believe the next event is the rapture. We don't have to agree. For this that I'm going to share with you, we don't have to agree on eschatology. It doesn't matter, and you'll see why in a minute. But I want you to know where I'm coming from, because that's my angle from what I understand from Scripture. So, at the end of the tribulation, some Gentiles that have been left behind became, and that's why, you have to understand that I'm pre-trib, pre-mill. But anyway, put that aside. Would have become believers throughout the tribulation and would see the importance of reaching to the Jewish people who are in turmoil at that time, and they will help at their own risk Jewish people, and that would carry them to the end of the tribulation, when they would have actually saved the life of many Jewish people. And that is known as the parable of the goats and the sheep. The Gentiles who became Christians during the tribulation and helped the Jews. If you look further into the passage, I should have put that verse actually. It said, they walk straight into the kingdom, and those are the sheep. The goats are the Gentiles who look the other way. They became bystanders. They even became co-perpetrators or perpetrators, and they just pushed the Jews to their death during the tribulation to help the Antichrist and his minions. They walk straight into the lake of fire. Now, this is not salvation by works, because I don't believe in that. The Bible doesn't teach that. It's simply getting saved during the tribulation and seeing the importance of Israel and the Jewish people and wanting to do something about it. That's very biblical. And the reason why it doesn't matter what eschatology you adhere to is because this is a model that needs to be started today. And I don't care if we go through the tribulation, if we don't, if we are raptured before, if we go through the first quarter, the first half, the 3/4, the first seal, the second seal. There's so many views now, so many books have been. I don't care. The point here is that the principle of reaching out to do something to help Jews is recognized by the Messiah as the right thing to do. So we need to apply that principle to today. So let me wrap this up. I might finish on time. Recently, I was watching a webinar online organized by the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. Now, be careful with that organization. They're liberal. They've become more liberal over the years. What else is new? but they do a lot of good to protect the Jewish people and to fight anti-Semitism. But again, they're liberal, so they have good. They do a lot of surveys and polls, and you can get. I get a lot of their numbers, and it's interesting, and I learn from that. But I don't necessarily always agree with their conclusions. So be careful. But I was online, was watching, and the head of the ADL is, what's his name? Jonathan Greenblatt. I've never met him, but I ended up exchanging with him on the internet dialogue, because they were saying that Jews are really hurt, and so I said there seems to be Christians who genuinely, that was me saying to him, who genuinely want to come to our rescue, and I was speaking as another Jew, which I am. He doesn't know I'm a Jewish believer in Jesus. If he would have probably hung up on me. Jonathan seems to believe that those days are gone and that we can only trust the Jewish community. What if vocal Christians want to join ranks with harassed Jews? And Greenblatt answered, to clarify, I completely agree. We have allies, and they can come from many faiths, many fields, many traditions. So I was blessed to hear his comment live as he typed it, and I got it on my computer. So that was good to know that he believed that Christians could make a difference. And that's really, when you look at the luggage that I showed you, remember, the Jewish people today, they look at that luggage and they say, nothing has changed. It's just getting worse. You can add the Palestinian narrative to the stickers on the suitcase. You can add many different things. Nothing has changed. That's what the Jewish people see. But it's not true. We are at a place when we, as believers, can and should make a difference. This is our last chance to make a really counting difference. Let me come back to the story. Early on, I showed you a family, Maurice and Evelyn. And so after the war, there were people who helped the Jewish people, and this is what we can do to act in the present to hopefully, alter the future. This is the final challenge to believers. The righteous among the nations. They were. This is a title that was created by Yad Vashem Memorial to the Holocaust in Jerusalem. If you go to Israel, I recommend you go there. You shouldn't go to Israel and not go to Yad Vashem Memorial. It's a life-changing museum visit. So Gentiles were recognized for their rescuing of Jewish people during the Holocaust era. To become a righteous among the nations and receive that medal that you see on the screen, and also actually after your death as a righteous among the nation, posthumously you become an honorary citizen of Israel as a Gentile, which you cannot do during your lifetime. Nobody can become, but after your death, you become an honorary, which is the highest honor given by Israel to a Gentile. So they had to qualify for that. You had to be a Gentile. You had to rescue Jewish people. But you had to do it not for money or try to convert them. And you had to do it at the risk of losing your own life, which many did. Risk their own lives, and many lost their own lives. So righteous among the nations, you know some names. Oskar Schindler, Corrie ten Boom. They have trees planted on the property of Yad Vashem. Raoul Wallenberg, he was a Swedish diplomat who helped a lot of Jews. Many other people from different countries around the world helped Jewish people during the Second World War, during the Holocaust era. And some famous, some not so famous, and some completely unknown. Well, here's a completely unknown. If you know these people, I'll take you out to lunch for the rest of your life every week. Okay? Now don't lie. Don't you raise your hand. Oh, I know who they are. Pierre and Ida Darico. Okay, good. No hands, no lunch, good. All right, so not so famous Righteous Among the Nations, but in 2013, they received the medal from Yad Vashem after investigation was done and the research was done and photos and everything corroborated. This couple, husband and wife, farmers in the southwest of France, receive their two sons, who were in the 70s at the time, receive a medal on behalf of their deceased parents, because that couple from 42 to 45 decided to take in, remember Evelyn at the beginning? That's the same Evelyn that was taken by the Daricot family. That's her with a group of other young people at the farm where she was hiding for the last two and a half years of the war. Evelyn Weinsweig was there, and she actually has pictures of her in a white gown as a Catholic girl, hiding from the Nazis as a Catholic girl so that they would not see that she is a Jewish girl. And for the boys it was harder because Jewish boys were circumcised, and the Nazis would have them drop their pants in churches, in villages, in schools, and take them away if they were circumcised. Sorry for being so graphic. For the girls it was easier to hide them. Just, so she had pictures of her taken as a Catholic girl in a communion gown. So 7 years later, well, actually not 7 years, but in 2013, Evelyn Weinsweig reunited with the Daricot, with the two sons, as they received the Yad Vashem medal on behalf of their deceased parents. You see the man on the right giving the two brothers the medal to Evelyn, who by then is about 85 or 87 years old, something like that. And she's there. Their parents' name is at Yad Vashem, and they didn't plant a tree because they ran out of space. So they have a wall in the very back of the property. They have many different walls by year and by country. And you go to 2013, you look for France, and you see Pierre and Ida Daricot. They are righteous among the nations for saving Evelyn and her two cousins. This is Evelyn Weinsweig. She married George Melnick. The plot thickens. And they had two children, and one of their two children, not the girl, okay, but the boy, is this guy. I'm their son. I wouldn't be here today if this whole story didn't take place. If righteous Gentiles did not step up and say, okay, we'll take him in. They had no money. Actually, if you go to my YouTube channel at shalomandmessiah.com, there is one video. It might be the intro if you're a new person who's not subscribed, and you should subscribe. There is an intro video called Evelyn Returns to Pau, P-A-U. And you can even find it on YouTube if you just type that. But you should go to my channel because there's a lot of good stuff that I put there. Over 850 videos. Including interviews with a guy by the name of John Holler. But you can skip those. The story of Evelyn is there. She made it to French TV when in 2013 when that happened, and they filmed the whole thing in the village, and it's very emotional. They go back to the farm where she was hiding, and the two brothers are showing around the reporters saying, this is where we, as kids, this is where we live. Now the big farm that we have is built much later. We live in that small room, 9 of us, with no money, and it's a great story. So I pulled it from French TV, and I put subtitles, so you can watch the whole thing in French, but there's subtitles. Watch it. It's about 9 minutes. It's really worth it. So the reason why I'm telling you this story is because we're getting close to the end. You know that. We know that we know that as children of God we win. Okay, the battle is already. We know everything that's going to happen. We know we are going to win. But the Jewish people during the tribulation are going to suffer more than they've ever suffered before. According to Zechariah 13, 8 and 9, and the tribulation, of course, is known by its Jewish theme name, the time of Jacob's trouble. God is going to resume his program on mankind focusing on Israel, to bring Israel back to him. Because at the end of the tribulation, the Jewish people who survive the tribulation will say, Baruch haba b'Shem Adonai, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And that's the second coming. The second coming cannot happen if Israel does not call on the Lord. He said himself to Israel, surely you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So that is the trigger, that is the spark, what's going to make the second coming, not the rapture, the second coming. The return of the Lord to establish his messianic kingdom. At that time, he's going to look at the Gentiles and he's going to say, you did to them the same as doing to me. That's when he's going to speak to those Gentiles who became believers, and all Israel will be saved. Romans 11:25, 26. And that's at that time. The remaining Jews who did not die. How many is that? Well, according to Zechariah 13:8 and 9, it will come about in all the land, declares the Lord, that 2 parts in it will be cut off and perish. That's death. But the third will be left in it. And I will bring the third part through the fire, refine them as silver is refined, and test them as gold is tested. And they will call on my name, and I will answer them. I will say they are my people, and they will say the Lord is my God. So, again, from my perspective of being pre-trib and seeing the rapture as the next undated event, bear with me for a second here. This is a percentage we get in Zechariah 13:8 and 9. I always thought, oh my gosh, if this was to happen today, 10 million of the 15 million Jews would die and 5 million would survive. That's 2/3 and 1/3. That is correct. That's accurate. But God gave us a percentage. He said 2/3 and 1/3. What does that mean? It means that we don't know the exact number. We know it's 2/3 and 1/3. And our job is to share the gospel with the Jewish people every chance we have, especially now. Because the more Jewish people that will hear the gospel and get saved, the smaller the percentage of those who are going to perish. Now, so let me finish the whole thing here. Now, today 10 million, 5 million. From my perspective, a pre-mill, pre-trib perspective, and I know John and I have disagreements on that, but I love him the same. And he loves me the same, I hope. Any Jewish person saved before the rapture will reduce the number within the percentage. But even that, forget about the rapture. Here's another thing that you need to think about. Any Jewish male you talk to today, I think we're living in that time. I'm not going to set dates. But any Jewish male that you talk to today, and you plant a seed in that person's head about the gospel, could become one of the 144,000 Jewish evangelists that will do a great job during the tribulation. So you could be planting a seed and preparing the heart and the mind of a Jewish male who's going to be one of the 144,000, 12,000 of each of the 12 tribes. So that's why we really need to double our efforts on reaching Jewish people today. Now, in the next 2 minutes, I want to tell you, and then we'll be done. I joined efforts with a network, and this is why I started Shalom and Messiah, so I could decide on how much time I could volunteer out of my regular time. So Shalom and Messiah, we raise money to pay the bills, but that network does not advertise, does not raise money, never ask for money. We don't exist. I mean, they don't exist. It doesn't exist. It's not on the web. There's no brochure. There's nothing. It's a network that you could compare to you could call it a Jewish railroad, underground railroad. It's a network of like-minded Christians who are saying, when the time comes, if Jewish people need rescue and shelter, count me in. My house is safe. So there's a vetting process, and after that vetting process, the people are basically put on a list, and by state, by city, But and it's only in the U.S. for the 7.5 million Jews. Something has to be done, because we will not be the bystanders, the new bystanders of the 21st century. We want to be the new righteous among the nations. That's what Yeshua would want us to do. So if the Lord puts it on your heart to participate in that Underground Railroad for Jews, that network, it has a name. It's called B2Z, Bridges to Zion. Visit our website at Shalom and Messiah, and I think there you go. You can scan this if it's big enough for you, or you can just go to shalomandmessiah.com. Email me at Olivier at shalomandmessiah.com. And I am on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. On our webpage at shalomandmessiah.com, that we're connected, but we're not. This is not the same. The network again doesn't raise money. They don't exist. But on our webpage, you can go to our connect page. My name is so and so. I want to receive your monthly prayer letter. I want to donate to your ministry. I want to get your news on Israel. I want to go to Israel with you. All the things you can choose. And there's one where it says, I want more information about the network that Olivier spoke about. Click that box. That starts the process. Then you'll get an email with some questions, vetting, and it takes several emails for you to answer questions. And then when we're done, you're part of the network, and one day you might be getting a phone call saying, hey, this family by the name of so-and-so needs help. And it's on the people in the network. Again, we don't raise money, but I want you to know, this is not Club Med. This is not a camp for kids. This is opening your home. There's a certain risk involved in that. And it's going to cost you money because you have to feed these people. So what a great way to invite people. Join this network. You could lose your life and it's going to cost you money. But friends, this is where we are. And do we know where we're going? So this is where we are, and those are the decisions we have to make right now. I'm convinced that this is what needs to happen. So it's not for everybody, and I don't need you to come to me and say, I can't do it. I don't need to know. If you want to be involved in that, reach out through our website and connect with us. And we appreciate you. Let me close with a word of prayer. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to share what is on my heart. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the friendship that this church and our family and ministry has had over the years, Lord. I thank you for the continued friendship and what we are going to be able to do as we move forward. Thank you for giving us a clear picture of what's coming and what needs to be done. And Lord, we want to be good and faithful servants. We want to do what's right. And we certainly want to see more Jewish people come to a saving knowledge of their Messiah. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. Thank you.